The morning light softly penetrated through the windows of the luxurious jewelry store, Stars of Tomorrow, reflecting off the showcases filled with magnificent pieces. The atmosphere was a blend of elegance and sophistication, with the subtle aroma of perfume and polished bronze. Jin-soo, a successful millionaire, walked through the door with a determined expression. He was there to buy a gift, but the pain he carried in his chest was deeper than any luxury he could purchase. As he wandered between the shelves, his hands brushed over necklaces and rings, but his mind was elsewhere. He remembered little Soo-yeon, his beloved daughter, who had disappeared 3 years ago on a sunny day. The image of her laughing and playing with the heart pendant he had given her on her 10th birthday seemed more vivid than ever. "How could I forget?" he murmured to himself, as his eyes fixed on an ancient piece, a pendant similar to the one he had given her. It was a gold pendant with a delicate floral design, a symbol of love and hope, but also of loss. Jin-soo's heart raced. He approached the display case, his breathing becoming irregular. Each beat of his heart seemed to echo in his mind, reminding him of the life he had lived before losing Soo-yeon. A salesperson approached, noticing the intense expression on the millionaire's face. "That pendant has a special story," the salesperson said, his voice smooth as silk. "It was inspired by an ancient legend about love and loss. I gave a pendant like that to my daughter," Jin-soo replied, his voice choked. "She disappeared. I've never seen her again." The salesperson's eyes softened with understanding. "I'm sorry. Sometimes the things we love most can lead us to unexpected places. It's important to keep hope." Jin-soo nodded, struggling against the tears that threatened to spill. He knew the salesperson was right. Hope was all that remained for him. As he stepped away from the display case, a thought struck him. What if this pendant was a sign, a guide that would lead him back to Soo-yeon? As Jin-soo left the store, the sky seemed darker, as if reflecting his inner pain. He looked at the busy street, where life continued, indifferent to his suffering. The decision took shape in his mind. He could wait no longer. He needed answers. With a racing heart and a confused mind, he decided he would investigate what had happened to his daughter. In that decisive moment, something inside him changed. He felt an urge, a renewed determination. The love he felt for Soo-yeon had become his strength. "I will find her," he promised himself. "Nothing can stop me." With this new goal in mind, Jin-soo left the jewelry store, the pendant on his mind and his heart full of hope. The world around him could be cruel and relentless, but the search for the truth and for a connection with his daughter would guide him, no matter the challenges he would face. The path back to the car was dark. Each step Jin-soo took felt heavier than the last. His thoughts carried him back to the sunny days when Soo-yeon ran through the garden of their old house, laughing as she played with the pendant he had given her. Those memories, which once warmed his heart, were now a constant source of pain. But today, something was different. The unexpected encounter with that pendant reignited a long dormant flame in his chest. Hope. As he settled into the driver's seat, he closed his eyes for a moment, allowing his mind to fully dive into the past. The image of Soo-yeon, with her black hair blowing in the wind and her bright smile, filled him with longing. The pendant around her neck swayed as she ran into his arms, still small, still innocent. "You will always be safe with this," he had said, placing the delicate pendant around his daughter's neck. "Whenever you look at it, you will know that I will be with you." But that safety, Jin-soo now thought, had not been enough. Guilt gnawed at him. If only he had been more present, if he had noticed the signs, if he hadn't drowned himself so much in work, maybe Su-yeon would still be by his side. This endless stream of thoughts had accompanied him since the fateful day she disappeared, and he had never been able to break free from this emotional prison. With his eyes still closed, Jin-soo recalled the last moment he had with his daughter. It was an ordinary afternoon. They had had lunch together, and he said goodbye for a business meeting, while Su-yeon decided to visit a nearby art gallery. He never saw her again. He remembered the feeling of emptiness when he returned home to find it empty, the despair that followed, the tireless searches, the frustrating interrogations. No clues, no traces. Now, however, the universe seemed to have given him a chance, an unexpected lead through that pendant. Jin-soo knew he needed to act. His mind spun with questions. Who brought the pendant to that jewelry store? How did it end up there? Was it just a cruel coincidence, or fate trying to tell him something? Determined to discover the origin of the pendant, he decided to return to the jewelry store the next day. But this time, he wouldn't be alone. Still in the car, Jin-soo called an old acquaintance, Hyun-woo, a private investigator he had worked with before. Hyun-woo was discreet and efficient, and he had helped him in other difficult times. "I need your help," Jin-soo said directly upon hearing the deep voice of the man on the other end of the line. "I found something today, something that might lead me back to Su-yeon." On the other end, there was a brief silence. Hyun-woo knew the pain that Jin-soo had carried for years, and the emptiness that his daughter's disappearance had caused in his life. "I'm on my way," he replied without hesitation. Hyun-woo's unwavering commitment was something Jin-soo had always admired, and now, more than ever, he needed that loyalty. As he hung up the phone, Jin-soo looked out the window at the city beyond. The nightlights were beginning to flicker on, contrasting with the darkening sky. He took a deep breath, trying to calm the turmoil in his mind. Tomorrow would mark the beginning of a new phase, a new quest. This time, he wouldn't give up until he found his daughter. Fate had crossed his path again with that pendant, and he believed that somehow it would lead him back to Su-yeon. Ready for the next part of the journey, Jin-soo finally started the car, his heart racing and his mind focused on a single goal: to solve the mystery that had been haunting him for years. The next morning, the sun was shining, casting beams of light that illuminated the city streets. Jin-soo arrived at the Stars of Tomorrow jewelry store with a mix of anxiety and anticipation. The pendant still weighed on his mind, like an invisible thread connecting him to Su-yeon. Upon entering, the jingling of the bell announced his presence, and he felt the gaze of the seller from the day before, who recognized him instantly. "Good morning, sir," the seller said, a friendly expression on his face. "Are you looking for something special?" Jin-soo hesitated for a moment, then decided to be straightforward. "About the pendant I saw yesterday. I would like to know more about it." The seller nodded, observing the man in front of him with curiosity. "This pendant is a very old handmade piece. It has a fascinating story linked to the city. I believe it belonged to a woman who was very loved by her family. You know, there's much more than simple beauty in the jewel, right?" The mention of the pendant story ignited a spark of hope in Jin-soo's heart. "Actually, I have a personal connection to it," he confessed, his voice trembling. "It was the pendant I gave my daughter before she disappeared. I didn't know there was more behind it." The seller looked at Jin-soo with empathy, his eyes shining with understanding. "That is sad and fascinating. I can help you find out more. What would you like to know? Who brought the pendant to the store? Have you ever heard about the woman to whom it belonged? Jin-Soo asked his questions, his voice carrying a tone of urgency. Actually, the pendant was brought in by a woman named Min-ji. She found it at an antique market in the old city and decided to sell it here. I can try to contact her if you'd like. Jin-Soo felt a wave of hope wash over him upon hearing Min-ji's name. Please do that. I need to know if she has more information. The seller picked up the phone, and after a few moments, he turned around. Min-ji is on her way. She should arrive soon. In the meantime, would you like to see other pieces? No, thank you. I'm focused on this pendant, Jin-Soo replied, anxiety growing in his chest. The wait seemed endless, but finally, the jewelry store door opened, and a young woman walked in, her straight dark hair falling over her shoulders. She had an aura of curiosity and determination. Min-ji looked around until she spotted Jin-Soo and the seller. Did you call for me? Yes. This is the person looking for information about the pendant, the seller said, pointing to Jin-Soo. Are you looking for this pendant? Min-ji asked, approaching him. Jin-Soo noticed the glimmer of compassion in her eyes. Yes, he replied, his voice choked. It belongs to my daughter. She disappeared 3 years ago. Min-ji's eyes softened, and she shook her head in understanding. I'm so sorry. What do you know about it? I would like to know how you found it, Jin-Soo said, trying to keep his voice steady. What's the story behind it? Min-ji hesitated, seeming to think about her words. I bought it at an antique market. The seller told me it belonged to a woman who had lost someone very dear. The jewel carries a deep meaning and a connection to love and loss. Jin-Soo felt a shiver at her words. Do you remember which woman it was? Any clue about her whereabouts? His hope seemed to be growing. Unfortunately, no, but the seller at the market may have more information. If you're willing, we can go back there together, Min-ji suggested, her voice carrying a tone of encouragement. Jin-Soo felt a new surge of determination. Yes, let's do that. I need to know what happened to my daughter. With the decision made, he felt as if he was finally following a path that would lead him to answers. Min-ji smiled, sensing the determination in his gaze. Let's find Soo-yeon together, she said, the promise of new hope blossoming between them. Jin-Soo and Min-ji left the jewelry store, the atmosphere between them charged with electric expectation. The city pulsed around them, but their focus was solely on the mission ahead. Jin-Soo felt his heart race with each step toward the antique market. The streets were full of life, but to him, everything seemed a blur. The urgency to find Soo-yeon filling his mind. After a few minutes of walking, they arrived at the market, a labyrinth of shops and colorful stalls, where the smell of spices and the sound of conversations blended into a vibrant atmosphere. This is where I bought the pendant, Min-ji explained, her gaze attentive to the details. The seller is in one of the oldest stalls, near the entrance. As they moved forward, Jin-Soo noticed the hustle and bustle around him, but his mind was fixated on a single thought, uncovering the truth about his daughter. They finally reached the antique stall, a weathered wooden structure that exuded history. The seller, an elderly man with a long beard and sharp eyes, greeted them with a friendly smile. Ah, Min-ji, it's so good to see you again. And who is this? He asked, casting a curious glance at Jin-Soo. This is Jin-Soo. He's looking for information about a pendant you sold to me, Min-ji explained. Pendant. Let me think, the vendor said, rubbing his chin. Yes, I remember it well. A unique piece. A woman brought it to me. A woman with a sad aura. The mention of the woman made Jin-Soo's heart race. Do you know who she was? What happened to her? He asked, anxiety taking over. Her name was Yoon-hee. She came here a few months ago with a pained expression and an urgent request. She wanted to sell the pendant because she needed money for something very important. But she didn't say what it was, the vendor replied, his voice carrying a weight of memory. Yoon-hee, Jin-soo whispered, his mind racing. Does she have any connection to my daughter? The pendant was special to her, and, according to her, there was something that linked her to her family. She was desperate, seeking help. After selling the pendant, she left, and I didn't see her again, the vendor said, a look of concern on his face. Jin-soo exchanged a glance with Min-ji, reality beginning to form in his mind. Do you know where I can find her? Any clues that might lead us to her? The vendor hesitated, remembering. She mentioned a neighborhood on the outskirts of the city, an old house where she said she grew up. If I'm not mistaken, the street name was Jiangsu, but I'm not sure if she's still there. I need to go there, Jin-soo asserted, his determination renewed. This could be the key to discovering what happened to Soo-yeon. Min-ji, sensing the urgency in his voice, offered to accompany him. I'll go with you. We can't let this opportunity slip away. Thanking the vendor, Jin-soo and Min-ji left the market, Jin-soo's heart pounding with a mix of hope and fear. What do you think we might find there? Min-ji asked as they walked quickly. I don't know, he replied, uncertainty reflected in his eyes. But I need to know. If Yoon-hee has any information about Soo-yeon, it could change everything. Anticipation grew as they headed toward Jiangsu Street. Jin-soo knew that the journey was just beginning, and that, regardless of what they found, he was willing to face any truth. The image of his daughter, with the pendant around her neck, was the fuel that kept him moving. With every step, hope intensified, and the pain that had accompanied him for so long began to blend with a new sensation, the promise of a reunion, the possibility of recovering what had been lost. He was not just searching for answers. He was determined to reclaim the most important part of his life, and nothing would stop him. Jiangsu Street unfolded before them like a tangled ribbon of memories. The houses, old and worn by time, seemed to hold secrets within their walls. Jin-soo felt the weight of expectation and anxiety building in his chest. Each step brought him closer to the truth, but it also plunged him into memories he would rather forget. It's here, Min-ji said, stopping in front of a wooden house, its boards covered in stains and ivy growing like curious fingers. The paint was peeling, and the front window was partially broken. A place that must have once been full of life now displayed an air of abandonment. Jin-soo swallowed hard, his heart racing. Are you sure this is the place? He asked, examining every detail of the house. What if Yoon-hee isn't here anymore? If she was here, she might have left some clue, Min-ji replied, her tone encouraging. We need to try. He nodded, taking a deep breath before approaching the front door. With a light touch, the door creaked open, revealing a dark and dusty interior. The smell of mold and old wood filled his nostrils, bringing back memories of his own childhood. The living room was filled with furniture covered in white sheets, like ghosts of a forgotten past. And now? Min-ji asked, looking around cautiously. Let's search, Jin-soo replied, determination taking over. He began to move slowly through the room, his gaze alert for any detail that might indicate Yoon-hee's presence. If she really was here, there must be something that helps us understand. They explored the house, checking each room. The kitchen, although dusty, still had some utensils, and a simple table was covered with a yellowed tablecloth. In the bedroom, What caught his attention the most was a dusty wooden box from which he extracted some yellowed papers. "Look at this," he exclaimed, holding up a handwritten note. "It looks like a letter." Minji approached, curious. "What does it say?" Jinsu carefully unfolded the paper, his eyes scanning the trembling words. "Dear Yoon-hee, I can't stay here anymore. I need to find my peace and discover who I am. I promise I will return to you and our daughter. Don't worry, I will always be by your side, one way or another." The mention of a daughter made Jinsu's heart race. She had a daughter? This could be a clue. "We need to find out who this woman is," he said, his mind buzzing with possibilities. Minji looked around, as if expecting someone to appear at any moment. "We can try to learn more about Eun-hee and her daughter. If there was someone waiting for her, maybe that will lead us to more answers." Jinsu carefully tucked the letter away, feeling a wave of hope swell within him. "But for that, we need to understand where she went. Do you have any idea where she might have gone?" Minji thought for a moment, her expression revealing a spark of memory. She mentioned a place, an old bookstore in the city center where she used to spend time. She may have left more information there. "Then that's it. Let's go to the bookstore," Jinsu decided, his determination renewed. The idea that Yoon-hee might have left messages or clues there excited him. He and Minji left the house, the energy in the air shifting as they stepped outside. Jinsu took one last look at the old house, a whisper of hope running through his heart. "We are getting closer," Minji said as they headed for the car. "With each clue, the truth is getting nearer." "Yes," Jinsu agreed, feeling that he had finally found the path that would lead him to his daughter. "Nothing will stop me from finding out what happened to Soo-yeon." And so, the two set off toward the bookstore, the promise of a new chapter in the search for answers pulsing in their hearts. The bookstore, called Lost Pages, was a hidden refuge amid the city's hustle and bustle. The exterior walls were covered in green vines, and the entrance was framed by a dusty display window showcasing old books, as if they held secrets from forgotten times. Upon entering, a little bell tinkled softly, and the comforting aroma of aged paper and polished wood flooded Jinsu's senses. The inside of the bookstore was cozy and labyrinthine, with shelves extending to the ceiling and a dark wooden floor that creaked underfoot. The atmosphere felt timeless, a sanctuary for book and story lovers. "This is the place," Minji said, looking around in admiration. "If Yoon-hee spent time here, she may have left something." Jinsu nodded, excitement growing within him. "Let's search. There might be something that connects us to her or her daughter." They began to explore the bookstore, flipping through books and examining the shelves. The place was nearly empty, except for a gray-haired man who was organizing some volumes near the counter. He seemed absorbed in his work, but when he saw the two, he looked up and smiled. "Welcome. Can I help you with something special?" he asked, his voice friendly. "We are looking for information about a woman named Yoon-hee," Jinsu began hesitantly. "She used to come here. Do you remember her?" The man furrowed his brow, thoughtful. "Yoon-hee? Yes, I remember her. She came here often. She was always looking for something specific." "Specific how?" Minji asked, her gaze fixed on the man. "She liked books about family and identity. It seemed she was on a personal quest, you know." The man nodded, thoughtful. "She mentioned having a daughter and was always very concerned about their future." "Do you know where she is now?" Jinsu asked, anxiety showing in his voice. "Unfortunately, no. She stopped coming a while ago." The last time I saw her, she seemed distressed, as if she were facing a difficult decision. The man replied, his eyes full of compassion. But she left some notes around here. You might find something that helps. Hope reignited in Jinsu's heart. Can you show us where those notes are? The man led them to a small room at the back of the bookstore, where a corkboard was filled with papers, photos, and magazine clippings. Here are some things Yoon-hee left me. She used to share her thoughts and reflections. Jinsu began to examine the papers, his eyes locked on the handwritten words. The notes were a mix of thoughts about love, loss, and an unending search for answers. In one of them, he found a reference to a place, the tree that blooms at dawn, accompanied by an address. "What is this place?" Minji asked, leaning in to see the note. "It seems to be a park or a natural area." Yoon-hee mentioned it was special to her and her daughter. "It may have a deeper meaning," Jinsu replied, determination pulsing in his veins. "We need to go there." "Yes, but first, what else did she write?" Minji insisted, looking at the other papers. One of the notes caught Jinsu's attention. It was a message of hope. Even when everything seems lost, the roots of love always connect us. "And I will return, no matter what happens." The words penetrated deep into his soul, awakening a wave of emotion. It was as if Yoon-hee were speaking directly to him, sharing her pain and determination. "She was trying to find her way back, just like me," he murmured. Minji sensed the depth of Jinsu's emotions and offered an encouraging smile. "Come on, we have to follow this lead." With the new direction in mind, they said goodbye to the bookstore man and left, the energy of the place still resonating in their souls. The park, the tree that blooms at dawn, was the next destination, a place that promised to reveal more than just clues, but also the hidden truths they both sought. As they walked toward the park, Jinsu felt his determination grow with each step. The connection between the fragments of his life and Yoon-hee's story was becoming stronger, and he was determined not to give up until the pieces fell into place. After all, the hope of reuniting with Soo-yeon was more alive than ever. The walk to the park. The tree that blooms at dawn was silent, but full of expectation. Jinsu felt his heart pulse in tune with the beauty of the nature around him. The sun was beginning to set, casting golden rays through the leaves of the trees, creating a magical atmosphere. Each step brought them closer to answers that could change everything. When they finally arrived, Jinsu and Minji stopped at the entrance. The park was an oasis of tranquility, with a wide area covered in green grass and flowers swaying gently in the wind. In the center, a huge tree was blooming, its white petals falling like soft snow. "This must be the tree she mentioned," Minji said, admiring the tree's majesty. "It's really beautiful." Jinsu approached, his gaze fixed on the flowers. "It must have meant something very special to Yoon-hee and her daughter," he replied, thinking about the emotional connection the tree might have. "Let's look for any sign, something that leads us to her," Minji suggested, her voice filled with determination. The two separated, each exploring different areas of the park. Jinsu walked toward the tree, his heart pounding with a mix of hope and fear. He crouched down to examine the ground around the tree, searching for anything that might have been left behind. Meanwhile, Minji was checking the benches and picnic areas, talking to some people who were there. An elderly man, who was feeding birds, looked up and smiled when he saw her. "Hello, young lady. What brings you here?" he asked. "We're looking for information about a woman named Yoon-hee. Do you know her?" Minji asked, trying to keep hope alive. The man frowned, deep in thought. "Yoon-hee. I've seen her here a few times, always alone. Sometimes she brought a girl, a little one with a charming smile. They always came to the tree, as if they were searching for something," he said, his voice carrying a sense of nostalgia. "Grasping a piece of the past, perhaps?" Minji commented, observing the man's expression. "Do you know if they still come here? I haven't seen her in months. The last time I saw her, she looked very sad, as if she were losing something important," the man replied, his voice lowering. Minji felt a tightness in her heart. "Do you know where they might be now?" The man shook his head. "I'm not sure, but I saw a woman with hair similar to hers at a nearby house on Lotus Street. If she's still around, it might be the key you're looking for." Minji thanked the man and hurried to find Jin-soo. He was standing, holding a crumpled piece of paper he found near the base of the tree. "Look at this," he said, holding the paper out to Minji. "Is it a letter?" she asked, curious. "Yes, it looks like a love letter," Jin-soo replied, his eyes fixed on the words. "It's from Yoon-hee to someone named June." Minji leaned in, reading the words carefully. "Even if storms come and darkness surrounds us, I will always find my way back to you and to our daughter. I promise I won't give up on us." The words resonated in her heart. She was really struggling to reunite with her daughter, Minji said, emotion visible on her face. Jin-soo tucked the letter away, feeling it was a vital link between them and the truth about Soo-yeon. "We need to go to Lotus Street. It's our next clue." They left the park, the sky now tinged with orange and pink as the moon began to rise. The path to Lotus Street felt shorter than ever, their minds buzzing with the possibility of finally finding Yoon-hee and hopefully the daughter he longed to reunite with. Along the way, Jin-soo felt the tension building in his chest. What would happen when they found Yoon-hee? And how would she react to knowing he was searching for her daughter? The questions were as numerous as the answers. "Jin-soo," Minji called, pulling him back to reality. "What will you do when you find her? I need to understand what happened. I need to know why Soo-yeon disappeared and what Yoon-hee did to try to find her," he answered, his voice firm. "She's my only chance of getting the answers I've been seeking." Minji nodded, the determination in her eyes reflecting Jin-soo's. "We're in this together. No matter what happens, we can't give up." As they approached Lotus Street, a new sense of urgency washed over them. Hope and fear intertwined, but the need for answers guided them. Destiny awaited, and they were ready to face it. Lotus Street was a quiet place, with old houses and well-kept gardens, but the atmosphere was tense for Jin-soo. He felt they were about to discover something crucial about Yoon-hee and potentially about Soo-yeon. With every step, the anticipation transformed into a whirlwind of emotions. "What's the number of the house the man mentioned?" Minji asked, looking around as they walked. "He didn't say, but let's look for a house with a well-kept garden. It seems this street has several like that," Jin-soo replied, his eyes scanning each house. Finally, they spotted a house on the right, with colorful flowers scattered throughout the garden and a white wooden fence. It was inviting and seemed to be well cared for. "I think it's here," Jin-soo said, stopping in front of the gate. Minji took a deep breath. "Are you ready for this?" "There's only one way to find out," Jin-soo replied, feeling the weight of responsibility on his shoulders. They climbed the steps to the porch, and Jin-soo hesitated for a moment before knocking on the door. The sound echoed, and soon after, a woman with brown, wavy hair and an attentive gaze appeared at the entrance. She had a gentle aura, but there was also a fragility in her eyes. "Yes?" she asked, a bit hesitantly. "I'm sorry to bother you. My name is Jin-soo, and this is Minji. We're looking for Yoon-hee. Do you know her?" He spoke quickly, but with a warmth that tried to convey the urgency of the situation. The woman frowned, her expression quickly shifting from confused to worried. Yoon-hee. She is my friend, but I haven't seen her in a long time. Why are you looking for her? We need to understand what happened to her and her daughter Soo-yeon. We're searching for answers, Jin-soo explained, trying to remain calm. Come in, please, the woman said, opening the door. My name is Hye-jin. The last time I saw Yoon-hee, she was distressed and mentioned that she needed some time alone to reflect. Did something happen? Is the girl okay? We don't know for sure. That's why we're here, Minji said, watching the concern intensify on Hye-jin's face. Hye-jin led them to the living room, which was cozily decorated. The soft light from the lamp illuminated the photos on the wall, depicting happy moments of family life. Jin-soo felt a pang in his heart upon seeing the frozen happiness in the images. How could Yoon-hee's life have changed so much? Can you tell us more about what Yoon-hee shared with you? Jin-soo asked, sitting in one of the chairs. She was so worried about her daughter. Yoon-hee told me she had made some tough decisions and was searching for a way to reconnect with her daughter. She felt like she had lost control of her life, Hye-jin replied, her eyes shining with sadness. The last thing she said was that she needed to go to a place that would help her find peace. Something about an old bookstore and a tree. Jin-soo and Minji exchanged glances. She really has been there, Minji murmured, remembering the bookstore and the tree. Hye-jin, do you know where she went afterward? She mentioned a park, but I don't know the name. Just that there was a very special tree for her and her daughter. She was determined to find the truth about her family, Hye-jin replied, distressed. So, the park was really the tree that blooms at dawn, Jin-soo said, the thought forming. We need to go back there. Yoon-hee may have left some important clue, or she might be there now. Please, let me know if you find anything, Hye-jin pleaded, her eyes full of hope. She is a very dear friend, and if she needs help, I want to be by her side. We will do our best, Hye-jin. Thank you for having us and sharing this information, Jin-soo replied, feeling grateful for the woman's kindness. As they left the house, Jin-soo felt they were getting closer to unraveling the knot of mysteries surrounding Yoon-hee and Soo-yeon. The park awaited, and the anticipation of reuniting with Yoon-hee was becoming more palpable. Let's go back to the park. If Yoon-hee is there, we will bring her back home, Minji said, the determination in her gaze reflecting his. The way back was quick, and twilight began to envelop the city in warm hues. Jin-soo walked briskly, adrenaline coursing through his veins. There was a new focus, a new hope. When they arrived at the park, the soft lights of the lanterns began to glow, and the atmosphere was magical, almost ethereal. The tree stood there, imposing and full of life. Jin-soo looked around, searching for any sign of Yoon-hee. We need to split up to search. If she is here, we have to find her quickly, Minji suggested, her eyes scanning the park. Okay, I will check the benches near the tree. Can you go to the area where the flowers are? Jin-soo replied, and the two set off in opposite directions. Each step felt like an eternity, but Jin-soo's determination kept him focused. He approached the tree, running his hand along the sturdy trunk. Feelings of hope and anxiety mingled in his heart, and he wished that somehow Yoon-hee was there, waiting for them. What would you do if you saw her? A soft voice whispered in his mind, and he remembered the notes he had read. It was the same determination that Yoon-hee had shown. I would take her back home, he murmured to himself, resolved to do everything in his power to reunite that family again. Jin-soo walked around the tree, his eyes fixed on the flowers, falling like delicate tears. The atmosphere was serene, but his heart pulsed with the urgency of finding Yun-hee. The soft light of twilight illuminated the park, and he wondered if Yun-hee still came to this place that meant so much to her and her daughter. Meanwhile, Minji was examining the flower area, searching for clues that could lead to the woman they were looking for. She stopped upon hearing the sound of approaching footsteps and quickly turned, her heart racing as she realized it was a group of people coming closer, laughing and chatting. Maybe they know something, Minji thought, her hope renewed. She approached the group and, with a smile, asked the question that was on the tip of her tongue. "Excuse me, do you know someone named Yun-hee? We are trying to find her." The faces in the group quickly changed, joy giving way to concern. A woman with curly hair and brown eyes, who seemed to be among them, stepped forward. "Yun-hee, what happened to her? We are searching for her and her daughter, Soo-yeon. The last information we have is that she came here often," Minji explained, her voice filled with hope. The woman shook her head, worry evident in her expression. "I am Yun-hee's sister, Hae-jin. I haven't seen her in months. She was struggling to deal with some things." "What happened?" Minji and Hae-jin exchanged glances, and a wave of empathy and solidarity passed between them. "We are looking for her because we believe she is still in the city and needs help. She must be somewhere near the tree that blooms at dawn," Minji said. Hae-jin looked at the tree, tears beginning to glisten in her eyes. She always talked about that tree. She believed it brought peace, but I never knew she came here alone. The conversation quickly turned into a venting session, where Hae-jin shared the challenges Yun-hee had faced. She was dealing with the guilt of having let Soo-yeon go. She thought she wasn't good enough as a mother and needed time to find herself, Hae-jin said, her voice breaking. "The last time I spoke to her, she was determined to change the situation, but I don't know how. We need to find her before it's too late," Minji said, feeling a growing pressure in her chest. "Do you know where she might have gone? Any clue could help." Hae-jin hesitated, and then her eyes lit up. She mentioned something about a place she used to visit in her childhood, a small cabin in the woods near the mountain. It was a place where she used to feel safe. If Yun-hee is still looking for peace, maybe that's where she is. Jin-soo, who had been listening to the conversation, joined the group. "Do you know where that cabin is?" "Yes, it's a bit out of the way, but I can show you on the map. We need to go now. We can't waste any time," Hae-jin replied, determined. The four of them quickly headed for the park exit, a sense of urgency and hope guiding them. As they walked, Jin-soo and Minji exchanged glances, both aware that they were closer than ever to finding Yun-hee and bringing Soo-yeon back home. Arriving at Hae-jin's house, she quickly grabbed a map of the area and began to trace the route to the cabin. "Here it is. It's a place she always considered her refuge," she said, marking the location. "But the path is a bit complicated, and it may take about an hour to get there." "We're ready. Let's go," Jin-soo said, determined. Along the way, conversation flowed, and Hae-jin began to share more about Yun-hee's childhood, causing Minji and Jin-soo to feel as though they knew Yun-hee in a more intimate way. Every word from Hae-jin was a new piece of the puzzle, revealing a side of Yun-hee they hadn't known before. She has always been strong, but life hit her hard. The loss of Soo-yeon was a devastating blow for her, Hae-jin said, her voice trembling. "I hope we can find her in time." The intensity of the mission was clear to all of them. The walk to the cabin united them in a common goal, and hope began to solidify. Jin-soo thought of Soo-yeon, her smile, and how he would do anything to have her back. Finally, After a long walk along the trail that wound through the forest, they spotted the cabin. It was a simple structure, surrounded by tall trees and wildflowers gently swaying in the wind. The atmosphere was peaceful, but Jinsu's heart raced. "She might be inside," he whispered, looking at Heijin and Minji. "Let's go. We need to find out," Heijin said, the determination in her eyes reflecting that of Jinsu. With their hearts in their throats, they approached the cabin door. Jinsu knocked lightly, the sound echoing in the tranquility of the woods. "Yun-hee," he called, his voice low but full of hope. "Are you there?" The silence that followed felt endless, and the tension grew as they awaited a response. The moment was about to change everything. The atmosphere around the cabin was heavy. Jinsu, Minji, and Heijin waited anxiously, the silence broken only by the rustling of leaves in the wind. The beating of his heart seemed to echo in the forest, and he could hardly think of anything else but finding Yun-hee. "Yun-hee!" he called again, louder this time, his voice carrying a mix of hope and urgency. "We're here for you." The echo of his words dissipated into the tranquility of the woods, and a moment of tension settled in. Jinsu exchanged glances with Minji and Heijin, who also looked anxious. "What happened to you, Yun-hee?" he wondered, imagining the struggles she had faced. After what felt like an eternity, the cabin door slowly opened, revealing a familiar figure. Yun-hee was there, her brown eyes filled with surprise and a hint of sadness. She looked a bit different, but her essence was unmistakable. "Who's there?" she asked, her voice soft, but marked by a fragility that Jinsu hadn't noticed before. "Yun-hee!" Heijin exclaimed, stepping forward with open arms. "It's you! I'm so happy to see you." Yun-hee's expression instantly changed from confusion to recognition. "Heijin, what are you doing here?" Surprise enveloped her, but soon a look of fear crossed her face as she noticed Jinsu and Minji. "We're here because we care about you," Minji said, taking a step forward. "We know you've been struggling, and we want to help." Tension hung in the air as Yun-hee processed the words. Her eyes moved between Heijin, Minji, and Jinsu, the internal struggle visible on her face. I don't know if I'm ready for this," she said, her voice faltering. "Yun-hee, you're not alone. We're here to listen to your story," Jinsu said, his heart racing. "We need to understand what happened to you and to Suyeon." The name of her daughter triggered an instant reaction in Yun-hee. A tear rolled down her cheek, and her gaze drifted, as if searching for answers in a distant past. I made wrong choices. Life got too complicated, and I didn't know how to cope," she murmured, the pain in her voice palpable. "You can still make it right," Heijin said, stepping closer. "Suyeon needs you. We need you." "But I thought I had lost her forever," Yun-hee whispered, her emotions on the surface. "How can I face this? I'm the reason she's gone." "It's not too late. We're here to help you find Suyeon," Minji replied, the empathy in her gaze injecting new energy into Yun-hee. Jinsu felt adrenaline surge, and he stepped forward, his eyes steady on Yun-hee. "I promise we will do whatever it takes to bring her back. You are an incredible mother, and you shouldn't give up. We'll do this together." A heavy silence fell over them, and Yun-hee seemed to struggle with her emotions. Finally, she took a deep breath, tears streaming down her face. "I don't know how. What should I do? Let's start with what you want. Talk about what happened. Talk about Suyeon. If you tell us the truth, we can help you," Minji encouraged, her voice sweet and welcoming. Yun-hee hesitated, but the sincerity in Minji's words seemed to break down the barrier that isolated her. I left her with a friend, thinking it would be best. I thought I could take care of myself for a while, but I couldn't handle it. And when I came back, she was gone. I searched, but I didn't know where else to look, she confessed, guilt overflowing in her voice. Jin-soo and Minji listened intently, their hearts aching as Eun-hee opened up. Hae-jin held her sister's hand, the connection between them serving as a reminder that they were in this together. Eun-hee, Jin-soo began. We can help find Soo-yeon. Let's investigate. Talk to people who have seen her. You don't have to do this alone. Eun-hee's expression lit up slightly. Would you do that for me? We will do it for your daughter. We are here for you, Minji replied, her voice firm. Eun-hee looked at the cabin, then at the group standing before her. A new sense of hope began to grow within her, mixing with the pain and guilt. I want to find her. I want to bring her back. Then let's start right now, Hae-jin said, a gentle smile appearing on her face. We're in this together. The bond between them strengthened, and Eun-hee felt that she could finally take a step toward healing. As they left the cabin, a new dawn seemed to emerge. The flowers danced in the wind, and the soft morning light promised a new beginning. Jin-soo, Minji, Hae-jin, and Eun-hee were ready to face whatever came next, united in a mission that transcended the past and embraced the future. With their hearts beating with hope, they set out in search of Soo-yeon, determined to rebuild what was lost and heal the wounds that time had caused. The journey was just beginning, but now they were together. Jin-soo, Minji, Hae-jin, and Eun-hee's journey was not easy, but their determination to find Soo-yeon strengthened with each step they took. With Eun-hee finally willing to open up about what had happened, the group began piecing together the puzzle. They visited places that were important to her, spoke with friends and acquaintances, and even searched in animal shelters and charities. The first place they visited was the cafe where Eun-hee used to take Soo-yeon for ice cream. As soon as they entered, a familiar aroma of fresh coffee and baked goods enveloped them. Eun-hee took a deep breath, remembering the happy moments they had spent there. Do you think anyone might have seen Soo-yeon? Jin-soo asked, addressing the attendant who knew Eun-hee. The young employee who was behind the counter looked at Eun-hee with a look of recognition. Eun-hee, it's been so long. What happened to you and the little one? He asked, concern shining in his eyes. We're looking for her, Eun-hee replied, her voice trembling. Have you seen her? At any time. Any information you can give us would be a huge help. The attendant hesitated, scratching his head. Unfortunately, I haven't seen her, but I remember you and Soo-yeon. She was a lovely little girl. If I hear anything, I promise I'll let you know. After that visit, the team decided to head to the park where Eun-hee used to spend her days. They believed that perhaps someone there had seen Soo-yeon. The park was alive with children playing and families enjoying the sunny day. Eun-hee felt a mix of hope and nostalgia as she watched the children. Minji, always optimistic, began asking some mothers and fathers if they had seen Soo-yeon. In one conversation, an older woman with a kind look approached them. Sorry to interrupt, she said. I heard you talking about the missing girl. My son saw a little girl with curly hair and a chain with a pendant, similar to what you described a few weeks ago. She was with a man who seemed lost. He got worried and tried to approach her, but she looked scared. Eun-hee's heart raced. Do you know where that was? Near the train station. The boy saw her while he was playing, the woman explained. She was with a man who looked a bit agitated. The tension in the air was palpable. "We need to go there now," Jinsu stated, determined. "We can't miss this chance." The group ran toward the station, each step filled with anticipation. The sun was beginning to set, painting the sky with vibrant colors as if it were painting their hope in every hue. Upon arriving at the station, a sense of urgency took over them. Heijin searched for an employee and, with desperate eyes, asked, "Have you seen a little girl? She was with a man?" The employee, an elderly man with a tired expression, shook his head. "I haven't seen her, but you'd better ask the security guard. He's always keeping an eye on the people coming and going." While Haijin and Minji spoke with the security guard, Jinsu drifted a little away, his gaze searching for something, anything. A movement to his left caught his attention. A familiar figure, a little girl with curly hair, playing with a toy. Jinsu's heart raced. "Suyeon!" he shouted, running toward the child. The girl turned, and Jinsu crouched down to her level. Their eyes met, and for a moment, everything seemed to freeze. "Suyeon, it's me, Jinsu," he said, his voice filled with emotion. The little girl smiled, but her expression shifted to one of confusion. "Who are you?" At that moment, Yoonhee and Haejin arrived running, and Yoonhee froze, her heart racing uncontrollably. "Suyeon, it's you!" The emotion made her cry. "Mommy!" Suyeon ran toward Yoonhee with her arms open. Yoonhee crouched down, and the two embraced, the world around them disappearing. "I missed you." Yoonhee, crying with joy, held Suyeon tightly, as if she never wanted to let her go. The group stood there, watching the scene with tears in their eyes, the connection restored between mother and daughter. "I was with a man, but he left me here," Suyeon explained, her voice a little shaky but full of innocence. "I was scared. Don't worry, dear. You are safe now. I will never let you go again," Yoonhee said, her voice choked with love. Minji and Haejin exchanged a look of understanding and relief. "We are so happy you are here, Suyeon," Minji whispered, smiling. The four gathered in a collective hug, a moment that seemed to eternalize the hope and strength they had found together. After so many challenges, they had become a new family, connected by the pain, the struggle, and the love they had overcome. That night, as they walked home, the sky was starry, and the moon lit the way ahead. Yoonhee felt a weight being lifted off her shoulders. She was finally ready to face the future and rebuild the life she had always dreamed of having with Suyeon by her side. And so, a new journey began, filled with promises, new beginnings, and, above all, unconditional love. The past might still haunt them, but together they were ready to face any challenge life threw at them, rising from the ashes, stronger and more united than ever.